Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the session Open Telemetry, a Developer's Story. While we go through the session, please use the chat feature for any questions or comments you may have. We will be actively watching and answering anything that comes through. My name is Miranda Williams, and I'm one of the product managers here at Netreo. I have been in the technology industry for 6 years now, starting out as a full-stack application developer, a customer success engineer, and now a product manager. I joined Netreo through the Stackify acquisition in 2020 and have been the product manager for Prefix, as well as cloud monitoring and reporting aspects of the Netreo IT infrastructure monitoring platform. With me today, I have Dan Gidman, the principal engineer behind Prefix. Dan, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I'm Dan Gidman, and I'm a principal engineer here at Netreo. Like Maranda, I also joined Netreo through the Stackify acquisition. I have the honor of being the longest tenured employee of that acquisition. All that means is I've just been around the block a few times. Among my other duties here, I'm also the primary developer of Prefix and have been since its inception. I love Prefix and hope you do and will as well.
Great, thank you, Dan. Today we will be going over an overview of Prefix, our developer-focused APM tool. For anyone unfamiliar with Prefix, we will highlight what Prefix is, who it is for, what features are included, and the future of the app. Then I will pass it on to Dan to give you all a VIP sneak peek into the Open Telemetry functionality that he is working on. Prefix is what we like to lovingly call the developer's sidekick. It is designed to be open on a second screen to run in the background and profile applications while developers are coding. Prefix is a trace viewer, enabling developers to see requests an application generates. This includes what was called, how long it took, and any other contextual information gathered by Prefix, like logs and errors. Prefix is also a log viewer, collecting application logs and tying relevant information to the traces collected for help with root cause analysis. Prefix also collects and displays any errors that may have been captured from an application, allowing the developer to easily see when there is an issue. Developers can also create JIRA tickets with the error details and traces to help with resolving the problem at a later date. With the summary dashboard in Prefix, developers can see a snapshot of how their application is performing with top requests, slowest requests, errors, and more. Prefix also collects SQL queries, cache calls, and web requests so that devs have all the details they could need at their fingertips. Prefix is designed for developers by developers. It is meant to be the sidekick that helps developers troubleshoot pesky coding problems without having to run a complex debugger or spend hours looking for a needle in the haystack. It is also designed to be part of the larger life cycle of a software product. Prefix should be used in the coding and development stages to help developers create well-performing applications from the start. Less bottlenecks and errors from the get-go makes QA and production releases go much smoother. Prefix can also be used in the QA stage to easily capture and share errors, logs, and traces for simple replication and resolution. Once an application has reached the pre-prod and production environments, teams that also use Retrace, the full-fledged APM solution, to capture traces that can be uploaded to Prefix to help developers resolve the issue quickly. With the information at their fingertips, developers no longer have to spend time trying to replicate the issue. Prefix has 2 versions, Prefix Free and Prefix Premium. Both versions support operating systems of Windows, Linux, and Mac, as well as 6 coding languages, .NET, Java, PHP, Node.js, Python, and Ruby. Prefix Free is simply a profile viewer where developers can search and view requests, errors, logs, service messages, and SQL queries from their applications. Prefix Premium enriches the profiler experience, with the summary dashboard giving devs an instant view of their application's performance. The ability to add additional watch locations for profiling even more requests. There's also the ability to export data to a CSV file so that you can create tickets for a later date. The ability to import and export requests and logs from other prefix users or retrace captures. And then there's also the ability to have smart suggestions that call out areas of improvement in your code. We also include a list of dependencies and distributed transaction views for distributed traces. And then there's also the ability to see similar requests, export open telemetry properties, and view requests for up to 7 days. I know that's a lot of information, so if you're interested in a demo of Prefix, you should check out the other Prefix session, How to Be a Developer Superhero, for a closer look. The future of Prefix is bright. We recently released distributed transactions to help developers understand distributed traces by being able to see root level transactions, and then the spans that make up a transaction, any parent-child relationships, and a list of dependencies that are part of the transaction or request. We are currently working on M1 support as well. Mac users with M1 chips can now install Prefix on their machines. Currently, .NET is the only profiler not supported, but it will be available soon. In the meantime, PHP, Java, Node.js, Python, and Ruby applications can be profiled. And of course, what you are all here for today, we are working on Open Telemetry coming to Prefix. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dan so that he can give you a VIP sneak peek into what he's working on to bring Open Telemetry to Prefix and eventually retrace. Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Miranda. So currently, Netreo shows profilers for most of the current languages in use in our industry, and it's a full-time job to keep up with the landscape for several people. We take an opinionated view of what's important and what's not, and provide developers with a way to inject their own opinions into that as well. However, we are not the only profiling actor in the industry by far. With New Relic, Datadog, and other high-priced competitors, there also exists a spec and community called Open Telemetry. Now, Open Telemetry is an open specification for collecting traces, logs, and metrics from applications or devices. Like OpenID and OpenAPI, it provides the message and entity format, naming conventions, processes, and guidelines for implementing these basic building blocks of APM. This is a community-driven and widely accepted spec that has implementations in a wide variety of languages and technologies, and is becoming a de facto standard on how we communicate telemetry data. As you can see, it's got a lot more language support than we do out of the box. Today, Netreo is happy to announce that with version 6, Prefix will fully support Open Telemetry. Source code for this demo is available in GitHub, and I'll call out what isn't during the demo. Also, the Prefix download there is a developer release. They'll expire on October 25th. Just be aware that with the developer release, we don't provide any warranty, guarantee, or promises of any kinds with this release, okay? Wait until the V6 in order to get those types of things. Open Telemetry functions by having applications and infrastructure ship traces, metrics, and logs to the OTel collector, and then the OTel collector processes that information and ships it out again to any observability front ends and APIs like Jaeger, Prometheus, Kafka, DBs, and basically any receiver you can imagine that has support for Open Telemetry. The OTel collector itself is a vendor agnostic agent that does the local collection, processing, and dissemination of the data. It receives data via receivers, shown on the left, and sends it out via exporters, shown on the right. During this demo, we are going to set up Jaeger and an OTel collector with Docker Compose, view the traffic with Jaeger, connect the collector to Prefix, and then also view the traffic with Prefix. The prerequisites for this are Docker, Node, .NET Core, and Prefix itself. Now let's move on to the actual demonstration here. The Docker file is going to create a couple of containers, the most important of which is the Open Telemetry collector, right here. For demo purposes, we'll be adding the Jaeger instance as well, but you can skip this section if you just want to go straight to Prefix. The collector has a configuration YAML that needs to be created as well that defines the receivers, processors, extensions, and exporters for the OTel data streams. what we're talking about is logs, metrics, and traces. Those are the 3 data streams. Here, we are defining a set of OTLP receivers using both the HTTP and gRPC protocols in this section right here. We're defining a processor, a batch processor, so that as we process the data, it'll batch it up before sending it out. We're adding a series of exporters, a logging exporter that will send logs to the container, a Jaeger endpoint that will export to the local container as well. This is just for demonstration purposes, and an OTLP gRPC endpoint for prefix. Now, this OTLP means the gRPC portion, and the slash prefix kind of gives it its own name. You could put like slash pink fluffy slippers there, right there, and it would work as well as long as it matched up to this down here. We're defining some standard extensions, and we're setting up the actual pipelines in this service definition right here. Currently, we're only doing the traces pipeline, but if you see other kinds of gateway YAMLs, you'll also see possibly a metrics pipeline or a logs pipeline. It's important to make note here, for our purposes, we are not securing the connection to either of the exporters. This is just because we're all localhost, but if you're going to do this in a production environment, please do us all a favor, secure your stuff. Next, we set up our Node.js application, and we're using an Express app for simplicity's sake. The repo has this already in it, but after doing all the correct npm installs and running the standard Express creation, we are adding this trace.js to the app and updating the start command to run the trace. This tracing right here. As you can see, we're bringing in Open Telemetry, setting up to the SDK, and we're calling start and everything else. Good job. Good job, Dan. Excuse me. I'm going to open the terminal here, and we are going to start up the Node.js application. There we go. I'm going to also open up the Docker here and bring us the Docker up. Docker compose. Up. And there we go. Now, I've already got prefix running in the background here as well, just FYI. And let's run some traffic. So here's the Express app. Let's run this a couple times. And let's see what we see. Now, Jaeger shows us a known service node. We click on it, find traces, and here's all the traces that it found for this node service. Prefix, the same. If we look at prefix, it shows us this transaction unknown service node. So it matches up what we expect to see. If we look at it, get style sheet CSS styles. There's even another style sheet. There's our span. There's the actual one that we got. Pave icon not found. Oh, we see good, nice little error there. It's this nice simple site. So there you go. Yeah, I know a little underwhelming, but let's change that. So let's bring up this example .NET app that we have, just a simple .NET app. We have some controllers, we have some views, and we have our setup. Okay, so in our setup, we're going to configure Open Telemetry and add a service name. We're going to add an endpoint. We're going to add the protocol and have it batch up, and add all the other rest of the services that we have. And then we're going to run it. I'll stop this right here. So we have home, privacy, etc. So we can add some logging. Now look over here. I've already added some logging to some of it here, just an example of log information. But let's add something else, right? Logger.log error. This is a stupid error message. And let's rerun it. And as you see, captured 2 logs. One's an error, one is an information. And there we go. Pretty cool. Let's get a little more complicated here. I'm going to bring up one of our homegrown applications called the version warehouse. I've already got it running here just to show you some good examples of things going right here. Now, version warehouse is a simply just a SPA that allows us to programmatically get to different types of bits we want to be able to install. For example, Stackfire Prefix is hosted here, as well as some of our profilers as well. So it's a SPA. If I press refresh right here, we're just going to reload the entire screen, does a bunch of things. And let's look at what happens below the covers. So as you see, here we are. These are the ones collected via Open Telemetry, and as a comparison, we have different ones also collected via our Netreo profilers. For the most part, it looks exactly the same that we're collecting the same number of database requests, we're collecting the same number of logs, but the name is different, the service name is different in both of them. We have different views on how we collect this data. So let's open this up, like iPackage service right here. This is same as, I believe, this one right here. I believe that's the same thing right there. So we collect the same kind of information, a little bit different naming, and a little bit different spans that are collected as well. So no API key found in the request, no API key found in the request. If you notice, we're also capturing on the Trio side, the connection closed and connection open. And one of the big differences here that we see captured is the Open Telemetry one does not have any parameters captured, where the Netreo version does. And this is because Open Telemetry doesn't support parameter capture without you going through a lot of extra hoops. So there's the difference between what's collected, but on the other side of this, all you have to do to connect Prefix up to Open Telemetry is add these couple lines right here to your Docker container, posting the collector. And then Prefix will work with it. So there we go. So official support for OTel will be coming in Prefix v6, so keep a lookout for that. And I'm sure it'll make some hay when that day comes. Now, Miranda, let's get back to you.
All right, thank you, Dan, for that great peek into Open Telemetry and Prefix. We just want to thank you all for joining us today for Open Telemetry, a developer story. We will be sticking around in the chat for about 5 minutes after the session ends to answer any questions or comments that you may have. You can also message us on the platform or send in your ideas to the idea portal at ideas.netreo.com. Thank you for joining us.
Running. Come on. Right.